Good morning. I need something for a quick breakfast pick-me-up this morning. Nothing like a good cinnamon roll. Follow and I'll show you how we made a quick cinnamon roll. I have heated 1/4 cup of milk in the microwave. It's about 110 degrees, and to that I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of sugar and 4 teaspoons of yeast. Stir that up. And it is going to sit here for 5 minutes. Okay, as you can see, our yeast has begun to rise a little bit. This is called yeast proofing. And what you're doing is making sure that your yeast is going to rise. If this would have not bubbled up some and kind of begun to foam, we couldn't have used it because it would not have made our bread rise. Now we're going to get this here, and we're going to add 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour. Two and a half teaspoons of baking powder. Now I know a lot of times you do not see that baking powder in your yeast bread, but in this case we did. We've also added 4 tablespoonfuls of sugar and 3/4 teaspoon of salt. And I'm going to give that a little stir. I'm going to add 2 tablespoonfuls of melted butter. And 1 cup of milk. And then I'm going to add my yeast mixture. And then I'm going to begin stirring that all together and mixing it. Be sure you scrape the sides of your bowl. We don't want a lot of flour left there. All of you bread makers that's used to making bread and different things, this is a good time to practice up on those skills while we're stuck at home. And nothing like giving good old sweet yeast rolls for breakfast, or even in the afternoon with a cup of coffee or a big glass of milk. Okay, that's pretty well incorporated. And it's a little sticky, which that is what we expect it to be right now. I'm going to generously flour my counter. That's probably 1/2 cup of flour. And then I'm going to just turn this dough out onto the counter. And we're going to begin to knead this. We don't have to knead it for a long time, but we want to knead it enough to where that it becomes a nice smooth ball and holds together good. Okay, now you can see that it has a smooth consistency and it's holding together really well. And we've kind of made that into an oblong piece. We're going to begin rolling this out, and we're going to roll it into a 12 by 15 rectangle. Okay, we're going to quickly mix our filling. I have 1/4 cup of white sugar and 3/4 cups of packed brown sugar. And I'm using the dark brown sugar because with it has more of a nutty taste. And to that, I'm going to add 1 tablespoonful of cinnamon and 1/8 a teaspoon of salt. And I'm just going to mix that together. All right, I'm going to give that just one more little roll, kind of get it out there. Then I'm going to take 2 tablespoonfuls of melted butter and brush on the top of this. Now you want it nice and even. You don't want big puddles anywhere because that will make your little rolls come out doughy in that part. Leave about 1/2 inch all the way around. Don't go quite to the end. All right. Looks nice and even. And then I'm going to begin sprinkling my sugar and brown sugar mixture over the top. And it doesn't hurt if there's little lumps in it. It'll melt and go down in those edges. It looks like a lot, but once it's cooked and the sugar has melted, it will be just the right amount. Now this is kind of strange because usually you let your bread rise one time before you begin doing this step. This is a quicker method, and I found that it works just as well. Okay, that's just about even. Now I have toasted 1 cup of pecans, and the reason I toasted them before I put them on here is the fact that I wanted them to dry out. If you put any kind of a nut inside a bread and you're going to bake it, if it is still full of moisture, it gets kind of tough. The nut becomes tough and chewy. And so to alleviate that, if you just toast it for a few minutes, I put these nuts in the oven at 375, and I kept them in there for, about 3 minutes. And that turned out just right. Okay, we're going to start rolling this up now. Now you don't have to get it tight, but you need it firm. Roll it up firmly. If you get it too tight, you're going to push your filling ahead and off of the roll, and you don't want to do that. You want to just roll it slowly, a little firm, but not rough. Okay. Kind of pat that in there. You want those nuts and that filling to kind of stick down into that dough. Now you're going to cut this in half. And then each half you will cut in half again. And each one of those you will cut in half again. And then we're going to cut off on this end piece, we're going to cut off about 1/2 inch. And the reason for that was the 1/2 inch that we did not put everything out to the center. Now it has some, and you can go ahead and bake it if you want to, but to make these all even, you want that gone. And then you're going to cut one more time down the center of those. And that gets these just pretty even. They are about an inch in width. Everybody will be wondering how you got yours so even, and you can tell them. Cut that 1/2 inch off there on the end. It's rolled up and it's kind of thin on the bottom, and if you look you can see there's not much there and it's just a piece. Okay, I've prepared my pan in advance, and what I did was I sprayed the pan with just a non-flavored oil, and then we had bought these little they're parchment paper rounds that will fit into your cake pans. They're kind of pricey, but believe you me, they are so worth it, because when you start trying to cut out parchment paper and get it to lay flat in your pans, it's a nightmare. Take forever. So what I'm going to do is just pick up those, make sure I get any flour off that may have been there, and I'm going to set those upright in my pan. Okay, first we're going to put them all the way around the edge. If a little of your filling comes out, just kind of let it go back on the top. Now you want them in there fairly tight, but they're going to raise, so you want to give them just a little space. If you have one that looks like it's a little small, let's get that one in there. It's kind of like laying rocks, getting them all in there. All right. And there we go. Okay. Put a little of that on there, kind of let it go in there. Now we're going to put these with a little saran wrap over them, and we're going to let them set now for 30 minutes. Okay, so these have set with plastic for approximately 30-35 minutes. Now whenever we cut those, if you notice there, it made 14 rolls and 2 tiny little end pieces that we took off. In the one pan I have 8, and in the other pan I have the other 6, and I just can't throw away anything. I stuck those 2 little end pieces right in there. I can eat those just like they are. After all, it's yeast bread, and who doesn't like yeast bread? Now we're going to put these in the oven, and they're going to stay in there for approximately 23 to 25 minutes. And we'll just keep an eye on them. The oven is set at 350, and they're going in 23 to 25 minutes. Okay, it has been 35 minutes. I'm going to check, see if they're ready. And they look nice golden brown on top. Got kind of that hollow sound there in the middle. Okay, I'm going to let these cool 5 minutes. Then I will turn them out onto the wire rack here, and then we'll put a little topping on them. Okay, we're going to make the glaze for our cinnamon rolls. I have here 2 tablespoonfuls of melted butter. And I've put in 3 ounces of softened cream cheese. I'll have to mash that up a little bit. You would have laughed if you could have seen me trying to get that cream cheese mixed in with that butter. Probably I should have creamed the cream cheese, then added the butter. But it's too late. We had to do it the hard way. I'm going to now add 1/8 teaspoon of salt. Half a teaspoon of vanilla. 2 tablespoonfuls of whole milk, and 1 cup of powdered sugar. We're going to mix that together. Now you could have added almond flavoring to this if you wanted to. All right, I'm going to let this sit here until my rolls are ready to get out of the pan. Okay, it's time to take our rolls out of the pans. I'm going to run this knife just around the edge, and that's just to kind of loosen up the sides. I'm going to put my plate over it, flip this up on it, and with those little pans, they just slide out easy as piece of pie. Now I'm going to take my wire rack, turn that upside down, and there we have it. Now we're going to let them cool for just a few minutes, and then I'm going to put a little of the topping on it. Okay, they have cooled for about 10 minutes here. I'm going to transfer this over to my cake stand. And then I'm going to take the icing that we made, and I'm going to drizzle that on the top. You don't have to be too even with it because I'm going to spread it out then. Kind of spread that. All right. Kind of spread that out so that it's nice and even. Cinnamon buns.